Hello, it's Louis Paul, Colors of Prague, Season 5, Episode 17. Uh, this time, talking about Banco del Mutuo Soccorso, also known as Banco, um, the last trilogy. So, as much discussed by myself, Banco del Mutuo Soccorso, that means Bank of Mutual Relief or Bank of Aid. It's an Italian band. They were founded in 1969 by brother keyboard players Vittorio and Gianno Nocenzi. They had a shared love for then new British progressive rock bands like Jethro Tull, ELP, Gentle Giant, and Genesis, some of which had not even released albums yet, but had often toured Italy as they had found appreciative audiences there. Musical scholar, the supremely voiced Francesco di Giacomo added a heretofore unknown texture to progressive rock, but one that would be copied by their own Italian peers. Utilizing Italy's steep lore of romanticized lyrics, opera, and dramatic staged plays, Di Giacomo's large, expressive voice played with romantic and melodramatic lyrics and themes, making the band uniquely different. Also, with a twin keyboard sound of piano and Hammond counterpointed by mellotron and synthesizers. I'm going to give you some background, as brief as I could, um, about them. Then I'm going to discuss the last three albums. The first album, the self-titled debut, was released in 1972 with an unusual cover art concept design of a ceramic piggy bank with movable windows where one could view the faces of the band members. Kind of daring, innovative, and a year before Led Zeppelin tried something similar with the album Led Zeppelin 3. If you remember Led Zeppelin 3, there was that wheel where you turned and there were cutouts on the album cover and you could see different faces, figures, and signs. That same year, 1972, Banco, for short, released Darwin, a daring concept album based on Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. True. That's a much beloved album, as well as Io sono nato libero, released in 73. And it was even more musically successful, adding in tinges of jazz and classical music to the band's sound. But by then, they were attracting quite the attention, along with fellow Italian band PFM. Now, imagine this. Both were signed to Emerson, Lake and Palmer's Manticore label and for release in the US and English-speaking countries, the UK. Banco, B-A-N-C-O, the abbreviated version, was released in 75 and it saw re-recorded songs from the first two albums and the occasional newly recorded tune. All were translated into English language. So it was like a new presentation for people who have never heard of them before. That was followed by As in a Last Supper, which is the English language version of the Italian album Come in Ultima Cena. As in a Last Supper, which, as it sounds, is a musical reinterpretation of sorts of the biblical Last Supper, while coyly commenting on the political strifes plaguing Italy during that period between the left and the right. The painting in the gatefold sleeve places band members in the scene of the Last Supper, something. Gatefold sleeves, you gotta love them. Unfortunately, after the Manticore label folded, Banco recorded a soundtrack to a film and released Di Terra, an album of then original songs recorded with an orchestra. Now, after this, band members came and left amid a shifting musical climate as pop music and disco, Euro disco became popular. Banco tried both with varying success, and they only released two albums in the 90s despite touring internationally for progressive music events. Nudo, Nudo, issued in 97, features one CD of stripped down versions of classic Banco songs, with one new song with Pete Hamill of Van de Graaff Generator singing lead. The second disc of live material that was recorded, I forgot where, sorry about that. But unfortunately, Nudo was the last released album to feature Giacomo, although there have been legacy recordings released recently of another soundtrack to a film, and I believe there's probably more to come. Unfortunately, Giacomo died tragically in a car accident in 2014. In 2017, Vittorio Nocenzi, keyboard, the only remaining or original member, recruited Tony D'Elizio, and they played a Prog festival in Verona, Italy. Now, D'Elizio is a veteran of other Italian bands, and he contributed to 6 re-recorded tracks for 2017 tribute album for Banco. Now, brings me to the last trilogy, as I call it. And there's this one. It's not very clear, sorry. So it's 2019 Trans-Siberiana. It was released, and it's quite a good album. It's touches on the bass of symphonic Italian music from days gone by, but being contemporary enough to keep the odd classical jazz and even avant-garde motifs wrapped up in a sound that audiences old and new can enjoy. And I don't know why it's not coming out clearly. It defeats the purpose of doing this program like this. The Trans-Siberiana was a concept album of sorts, and the CD from Inside Out, Sony Music, it's quite nice. It comes with it's a single disc, comes with a 20-something page color booklet with lyrics in English and a little autobiographical information here. Now, most of the album is in dual languages, so English and Italian. So Tony D'Elizio sings in both. In 2022, they followed Trans-Siberiana with another disc called Orlando, Le Forme dell'Amore, which translates to Roland, the Shapes of Love. That's this one. There you go. Released in 2022, Orlando, and Trans-Siberiana. It's from 2019. Now, Orlando centers around a 16th century poem, believe it or not. Um, Titled Raging Roland or Orlando Furiosa by Aristotle. Aristoti or Ariost. I believe it's Ariost. Um, Now, rumored to have been in the works when Francesco di Giacomo was still alive. Orlando is that rarity, a concept album based on a 16th century long form poem by an Italian poet. And it's over 80 minutes long. And I was really astounded by the vast variety of styles and tempo changes, sometimes within the same song. So, being someone myself who really like Trans-Siberiana, Orlando is on another level and a notch up above that album. These two I highly recommend. Now, if you haven't listened to Banco in years or ever, these are two recent recordings I really recommend. Yeah. Unfortunately, this is there you go. Banco's newest release, a 2025 album, Story Invisibility, Invisible Story. Um, it was released by the SAIFAM group, SAIFAM, and I'm unaware of this label. So this is recorded and released in 2025, and it's been referred to by the band as the end of a trilogy of albums. Of the connection, calling it a trilogy is kind of thinly veiled. Maybe I missed something. Unfortunately, while I highly recommend the last two, Orlando and Trans-Siberiana, the songs on Invisible Stories or Story are a lot shorter. Whole album comes in at 45 minutes, not unlike earlier or most progressive rock music, pardon me, making it decidedly shorter than the previous two releases by them. Now, here's the thing. The music sounds more pop or even Euro disco driven. Uh, hey, it's still a thing on the continent. Eurovision contests now, yearly, I believe. So in a way, it's a back step in the direction for Banco or an attempt for 50 plus year old band to stay relevant in the music marketplace. I'm not sure which. I mean, they know. Of note, the last two albums were released on Inside Out music label. It's been releasing quite a lot of progressive rock music these past few years, most notably a variety of popular bands. And as I said, the SciFam label is handling distribution of the new one, so I'm not quite sure what's up with that. Maybe we'll see other newer releases by SciFam by other bands, or unless this is like their own label, I'm not sure. Um, oh, and by the way, Vittorio Nocenzi's son, Michelangelo, has also joined the band on keyboards. So in a way, we're back to that classic Banco band sound. But then again, something that sounds less progressive. Um, Maybe I have to listen to it again. I've already listened to it numerous times, and maybe a few more times, and I'll feel different about it. I've said that before about some things that don't kick in, and they eventually do. But yeah, so the last trilogy, which they are calling it, and as I've said, the first two are very good. and it's from 2019 and 2022 respectively, and then there's the newest one from 2025. My comments about it might change, my opinion about it might change, the latest album, but for now it's not a great one. Nothing can be great. I always dislike saying bad things or negative things about anything, but if you look around for some reviews, Prog Archives, for example, it's a couple of people that I'm not sure what's going on with this band and this album. So there's that. Thank you for listening to the show. Discuss the newest recordings from Banco. Have a great day.